Hey everyone, my name is Wedge. It's Monday again, and you know what that means. It's time for another tournament review. Today we'll be looking at the top 8 from the standard Grand Prix in Krakow, Poland. Let's get started. The GP champion was Alexander Hayne, using a deck that has become known as Esper Dragons in the time since its appearance in the Pro Tour last weekend. We'll do a quick breakdown of the deck now, since it shows up a whopping 5 times in this top 8, 6 if you count one build that omitted the white splash. Yeah. Anyways, the deck starts with a blue-black control shell. Most of it's familiar. Thoughtseize, Crux of Fate, Hero's Downfall, Dissolve, Dig Through Time. On a general level, the deck works in the same way as the Prix Dragons blue-black control deck. Dragons of Tarkir has provided some powerful new control elements. Silumgar's Scorn is as good as counterspell if you have a dragon in hand, and in case you couldn't tell from the title, this deck runs a few. It helps that the card selection you have ensures you can keep a dragon in hand if you need it. Speaking of which, Anticipate is another nice new piece of tech for control. Control decks love instant draw spells, and this one lets you go 3 cards deep for the low cost of 2 mana. Foul Tongue Invocation puts in an appearance as well. This one is pretty good across the board, especially if you have a dragon in hand. Mid-range decks and other control decks won't have more than 1 or 2 threats to choose from. Against aggro, you'll probably just get a token, but the life gain is a pretty big boon in and of itself. Most of the Esper Dragon lists also included a Dragon Lord's Prerogative or 2, either in the main deck or on sideboard. Opportunity wasn't the worst thing ever when it was in Standard, and Prerogative is similar but with an added bonus in the control mirror. In terms of win conditions, Ugin has been the standard since Fate Reforged came out. He's still here as a one-of, but there are also 5 dragons in the mix. 3 of them are Dragon Lord Ojutai, representing the deck's soul splash into white mana. Turns out having a flying, repeating Anticipate that has hexproof a lot of the time is a pretty solid control finisher. Who knew? The other 2 dragons are Silumgar the Drifting Death. With as many goblin tokens as there are in Standard right now, -1/-1 on the attack is real strong for stabilizing in aggro matchups. Combine that with permanent hexproof and a nigh unbeatable 7 toughness, and you have another fine control finisher. Some of the lists swapped out one of the Silumgar the Drifting Death for his elder counterpart Dragon Lord Silumgar. With the number of big threats in Standard, being able to take control of something huge is a great benefit. Plus, the Dragon Lord blocks Siege Rhino favorably, which comes in handy. In terms of the land base, there's not too much new or interesting going on, but there are 2 Haven of the Spirit Dragon on all these lists. Haven is a colorless land for non-dragons, which do make up most of the deck. However, being the only such land in the deck helps its case, as does the presence of Urborg on the list. Second and third place both went to Robin Dolar and Paulo Vitor Dama-de-Rosa, fellow Esper Dragon users. Who would have thunk it? Bartlomi Lewandowski took 4th place with Jeskai tokens. For those unfamiliar with the strategy, you start with a lot of spells like Raise the Alarm, Hordeling Outburst, and Dragon Fodder that make multiple tokens. Add Jeskai Ascendancy to pump and untap all your creatures every time you cast another one of those spells, and you suddenly have a good way to get a board full of huge tokens. Secure the Waste is a new addition to the Spells That Make Dudes department. Stoke the Flames is a no-brainer since you already have a ton of tokens you can tap for Convoke. Plus, you can Convoke the Stoke, and then the Jeskai Ascendancy trigger will untap the creatures you just tapped. Some of the deck's few actual creature cards, like Seeker of the Way and the Ojutai Exemplars on sideboard, also take advantage of the huge number of non-creature spells in the deck. 5th and 6th places went to 2 more Esper Dragon decks, piloted by Martin Muller and Alex Hotman in that order. Along similar lines, Leo Schulhoff took 7th with Blue-Black Dragons. As mentioned above, the strategy is overall very similar to Esper Dragons, but with less Ojutai, or, well, none. There's really no Ojutais. Oh, poor guy. Oh. Rounding out our top 8 is Sam Pardee, who ran a new deck called Ojutai Bant. Esper, Bant, Dragons of Tarkir, more like Shards of Dragons of Tarkir, Alara, whatever, that fell apart fast. Anyways, the deck itself is slightly similar to a green-red ramp deck, only without the red. You start with Elvish Mystic, Sylvan Caryatid, and Courser of Crufix. Then you ramp up the threats that include Deathmist Raptor and Surak the Huntcaller, so not terribly unlike a green-red ramp deck. The white and blue come in for Fleecemane Lion and Dragonlord Ojutai. Threats that, size aside, are also hard to answer. Den Protector appears to get you some extra graveyard value and support Deathmist Raptor. Mastery of the Unseen also shows up to help with the Raptor. Jamoka's Command and Valorous Stance are also there for their versatile supporting abilities. And that's the top 8 from the Krakow GP. While most of the top 8 was pretty monotone this week, we did at least get one sweet new deck out of it. Remember when everyone said the Dragons and Dragons of Tarkir weren't good enough for Standard? Yeah, me too. Anyways, there's no Grand Prix next weekend, but there is an SCG Open in Cleveland, so we'll be back with those results this time next week. As always, subscribe for the latest and most reliable Magic the Gathering information you could ever need. This is the Manosaurus, I'm Wedge, thanks for watching, we'll see you next time.